It's all about creative risk.
There's success in sequels.
It's about a bankruptcy of ideas.
It's a business.
It's become self-destructive.
It's still about ideas.
Excuse-moi.
Peter Bart gives heart attacks.
Duber is aggressive,
Whoa!
loquacious,
Hold on!
overwhelming.
Give me a break!
Wrong, wrong, wrong.
On today's Sunday morning shootout, is it easier for new talent to crash Hollywood now than at any time since the 60s? Are producers extinct? And we'll shoot it out with Fight Club producer Art Linson, Warner Independent Pictures Mark Gill, and co-head of William Morris Independent, Cassian Elwes.
Hello and welcome. I'm Peter Goober.
And I'm Peter Bart, and you're watching Shootout. Goober, are you really seriously going to argue that it's easier to get into the business today than it was 10, 20 years ago?
Buckle up your Medicaid card, Bart, and let's take a walk down memory lane.
Boy,
I know you love
ageism is
those.
setting in.
You love those '60s period. Well, it's much different.
Get me HR.
Well, well, first of all, the times have so changed. You know, back then, the average cost of the film, like a Midnight Express, was the catering bill on a film like Spider-Man 2.
True.
The type of films were released for $2, $3, $4 million in advertising instead of $50 or $60 million in advertising. They were released on 4, 8, 12 screens instead of 5,000 screens. The world has changed. But what's really changed is at the other end of the pipeline, the audience is very young and very aggressive and very visual literate. They see movies, DVDs, television, video games, and the people coming into the marketplace are extremely more versed in cinema. Why? Film schools are turning out enormous numbers of students. Visual literacy in all the colleges. All the programmatic elements are visual. Therefore, the demand and the supply is great.
You made my argument for me. I mean, by pointing out that there were smaller pictures made then. It was easier to get off the ground pictures that cost $1 or $2 million. Therefore, young filmmakers were emerging in the 60s and 70s. And studios were willing to take a chance on new talent, whether they were actors or filmmakers. Today, not only is it tougher to get a meeting at a studio, and you know this as well as I, it is so tough. There's so many layers at a studio. It's impossible to figure out how you can get to see anybody, even the doorman.
Everybody said that back in the 60s, too. Oh, I'm never going to go see Jack Warder. I'm never going to go see, I'm never going to see these Jim Aubrey or the heads of MGM or Dick Zanuck.
It was easy to see you.
No. Because I was the only young person at that time.
Well, so it was easy to see me.
But the reality is this. Absolute reality is this. The sweet spot, that young audience is creating a demand to see its own.
There was a systematic way of building your talent in those days, whereas today, you're right, young directors may get a chance, but they crash and burn. If you don't score on your first picture, I could name lots of names, but it's cruel. You find yourself, if you're lucky, back in video or commercials, or doing TV, daytime.
I hardly believe that you're telling us this information because it's cruel. I read the paper every day that you write.
You know who
it
I'm
is
talking
cruel.
about.
That's cruel. What's cruel is that point of view. I'll tell you why. You're only saying it from your perspective of being older. Being young now is the most vital time in the industry. Visual literacy is in, schools are in.
He's young now.
No.
We're into science fiction.
Hey, buddy. Young is an attitude, not just an aptitude, all right? How can you deny that the young filmmakers, the young writers, the young directors are where it's at? How can you deny that?
That's a different argument. I'm just saying it's harder to get your foot in the door, and it's harder to find...
whose feet do they belong to if they're in the door already?
It's harder to find a nurturing mechanism which will help foster your career. People forget that in the days of Lucas, Coppola, Bogdanovich, Friedkin, they were able to make 2 or 3 small pictures, all of which failed, before they got a chance to make their big picture.
The nurturing mechanism is video games, is commercials, is DVD to homes, it's cable, it's television. That's the nurturing game.
If you're lucky, you're thrown into a big picture, and you self-destruct.
They don't self-destruct. The cream rises to the top, and the crap goes where it should go.
The mechanism for bringing young people into the business today sucks.
No, it doesn't.
Their case rests.
No, you rest, but its case doesn't rest. You just look around and take the age of all the people in the business today that are functioning and successful, and then look at it against 1960, and you'd see a totally different environment.
See, all your friends who you have to like Dick Donner, Sidney Pollack, all the kids that you're nurturing. Now, I'm talking about the real young people coming into the business.
There are more than ever.
They can't even get an agent.
Oh, come on. You're dreaming.
Did you ever try? It's harder to get an appointment with an agent.
The Brown Derby closed. This argument's
It's
no
harder to
good.
get an agent with CAA today than it was to get an appointment with the heads of studio in 1970.
Listen,
That's
all it
fact.
takes is passion, tenacity, and talent, and you can go anywhere you want in this business. And being young, if you have the will to do it, you'll find the way to do it.
My attitude is younger than your attitude.
Okay.
So, listen, Mr. Producer, before you advance any more arguments, your position is growing extinct. I mean, the way the producing fraternity in Hollywood has allowed itself to be marginalized never ceases to amaze me. I mean, Variety does a recent survey of new deals being made by studios. There are lots of director deals. There are even writer deals, certainly star deals. But producers increasingly are left out of the equation. Today, you know, the only producers welcomed by studios, by and large, with a few obvious exceptions, are those who bring their money. You know, you bring the financing. You walk into a studio and say, I've got all the financing for a project. They love you. But that's not understanding what a producer does.
Oh, extinct, huh, Bart? He said, you know who goes and picks up the last Oscar at the end of the show for the most coveted award, Best Picture? It ain't the director, it ain't the actor, it ain't the studio, it's the producer. And believe me, all those actors and directors know who goes up there, and they want to be also the producer. You know what's extinct in Hollywood? Respect. I remember when my mom asked me when I became a producer, well, exactly what you do. I know what a writer does, I know what a director does, a cinematographer, I know what an actor does. The reason why it's not exactly, because it's not exactly what they do. The not exactly may be, I can tell you my career. Raise all the money for a company, all of it. Go make all the independent distribution deals all over the world. Make the domestic distributor all over the world. Find the property, buy the property, develop the screenplay, do the copious notes for the screenplay. Find the director, make the deal for the director, collaborate with the director and who the cast is, work with the marketing of the company, collect the money at the end, work on the ancillaries, and my name doesn't appear on the screen. Or find the property, get control of it, give it to a great filmmaker and get out of the way.
Down, baby.
Being a producer
Down, baby.
is many things.
I'm not
It isn't just
arguing.
one thing.
I understand what a producer does. I certainly
And if you
understand.
did, you wouldn't say
And
he's just something that's
I'm
extinct.
saying that they allow a producer, the fraternity of producers is allowing itself to be marginalized. I understand what you're saying, and I certainly will glad to authenticate your various deeds you've just enumerated. I'm just saying is why the hell don't the studios understand?
Because
what
the studios
producers
are
have
made
done?
up of people, egocentrically, quite frankly, that they disdain the role of the producer because most of them see themselves in the role of the producer vis-a-vis the project.
Damn right.
That's the reason why.
But that's
But it's
ego.
that's
the corporate egocentricity.
It is. It's a mistake. And the reason why it's a mistake is that the producer should be part of the glue that holds the whole thing together. Help keep the vision on track. Help create the force that makes the vision come to reality. And here's the difference. Most of those executives get fired. And what do they become?
Producer.
Right. It's the very thing they disdain. And guess where they become the producer? At their own studio. And where is it the most likely for them to not succeed? At their own studio. But here's the key. A good producer, a producer who is thoughtful, is a Renaissance person, is able to do many tasks. A man or a woman who's be able to engage at many levels, at once be a lion tamer and at once be a babysitter, has got to know the difference. And the capability of having an idea and having the vision and the tenacity and the will to see it through, that's part of being a producer. It's knowing what you have to do at different times. And the studio is often denuded that process. But I don't think it's an extinct species. I think that the reality is that the quality of inside a person determines the role that they'll play in a picture.
So now we have some guests today who I think could speak with great insight on this issue. And rather than you haranguing me endlessly, which you have a tendency to do, why don't we bring on our guests and hear what they have to say on this subject? Maybe they'll even agree with me. Art Linson came out of the music business, and his first two pictures out of the box was The Untouchables and Ridgemont High.
And Mark Gill came out of the Miramax business. He was the West Coast head of that company and survived it, and now is the president of Warner Independent Pictures.
Cassian Elwes actually gave up producing and directing in order to be the force at the William Morris office that glues together the work of independent producers and directors.
Good, let's welcome him.
Come join us, guys. It's lonely here.
It will be.
Guys, greetings. Yeah, one inevitable question. Might as well start with it. You look at the schedule the next 3 or 4 months. There are so many pictures from the majors who are awash in tentpoles. Do the studios really want independent pictures to get made and distributed?
Yes. Very simply, yes.
Pourquoi?
Three reasons, I think. One of them is because there's room for elephants and mice, and we're releasing 5 movies this summer season, and there are other companies doing it too, and there's absolutely room, there always is. Second reason is because in large measure they've had to move up to make the bigger and bigger movies, and they, as a consequence, are making fewer of the riskier, smaller movies. This is a way to make them. And I think the third reason, which is perhaps the most important, is a lot of those movies are prestigious films that have a shot at Oscars.
I think it's a preemption of the independent producer, intentionally. I think they found a market and they went, wait a minute, we want that too. And I don't think it's any more simple than that.
You're talking about the
They are not
independent
interested in
units
making
set up by
$10 million
majors.
on a picture. They want to make $250 million on a picture. There's no interest here other than they're seeing their competitors do it. It's a small business. They want to make sure they have a piece of it.
Well, you know,
I don't think there's a shred of true concern about trying to make good independent movies.
You see, each of the studios now have started an independent wing. Your company, you're the president of the company, have been the last sheep over the hurdle. The question is, you know, now you're seeing weekends where not only is there Vin Diesel's new film coming out against another big picture, but there's a crowding out effect at each of the independent companies, the Focuses, the Sonys, the Warner Independents, et cetera, are releasing 2 and 3 films in the same weekend.
There is too much product.
How do they get traction?
If you make a good movie and the press picks up on that and they look at it and the audience starts to go, you can actually make a lot of money from these films because the investment is so little.
That's right.
And the idea that they can find great young directors and bring them into studio films and pay them peanuts instead of having to pay the big directors the huge fees. They love that business. Anytime that they can make more money in various different ways, this is a great way.
But explain, why would an agency like the William Ross Office be interested in this sector as against the TV shows and the tentpoles?
It's a fantastic business for us. We get to go out and make money, which is something that wasn't the intention originally. But on top of that, we get to help clients.
It wasn't the intention to make money?
No, originally it was.
Wow, I am shocked.
No, it was really a way to service our clients that in between making big studio films, and there's less, as Mark said, there's less studio films being made, and we have to keep our clients busy. And a great way to do that is to make independent films with them. And a great byproduct of that could be discovering great new young directors, and that's new clients for us. And along the way, we discovered we could actually make a lot of money from this business too by handling distribution rights for those films and making money from selling the films beyond just booking our clients in them.
But isn't it true that when you look at studios, what Art said, that these big, you know, cattle barn studios, these huge multinational companies have to go for the big giant target? How can they really pay attention? How can they invest the intellectual capital on these smaller films that are going to open in very small, you know, campaigns and little markets?
It's a very, very small investment as far as they're concerned. You know, normally they'll spend $100 or $150 million on one film. They can start a division, hire people, make little movies, and spend no more than $50 million during the course of a year. And for them, if one movie hits out of the park and is a Pulp Fiction, which cost $8 million to make and did 120 at the box office, I believe, did 250 worldwide, that's a huge, huge win for them. So it's a business that they like, and it doesn't cost much money to get in it.
I like to use the word intellectual capital. I mean, just independent films is intellectual capital, and just regular capital goes another.
You know, intellectual capital is the other resources in a company. You have in a company, you know, an investment coming out that summer of 2 $150 million films with $50 million in advertising. You better have a different organization worrying about your $6 million, $4 million films.
It's exactly right, and I think it's far more cynical than this. I mean, I think there is a small business out there, and they wanted in on it. And I think the Pulp Fictions, which is an accident as opposed to some regular independent fare, was enough to wake them up and say, we better be in on that.
No question. I mean, they got into this business, and I think that they're probably going to end
But it
up
wasn't like
killing
William Morris. They got into it for money and for co-opting part of the market. It wasn't like...
I agree with Art. I think they're completely going to kill the business, and they're going to kill it because they don't really know what they're doing. They're going to take their ideas that they have and the way that they develop and make big studio films and try to apply that to little independent films where...
You can leave now, Mark.
I'm fired. I'm just going to get up and go. No,
But wait a minute,
could
look
not
what's
disagree
happening
more.
in independent films.
Yeah.
The Warner Independent heralds, they're making smaller films with a lot of big stars.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of the companies like Focus and like Sony Classic, they're heralding stars in it. You know, we have Jim Carrey above the line. Are they going to all get into the same contest again and just make the small pictures bigger pictures and ultimately not go for that audience that they really wanted to go
No,
for.
I mean, there will be that. There's no question about it. But I mean, look, we're making a movie with Elijah Wood and a bunch of Ukrainians this summer, okay? And we're making a lot of stuff that doesn't particularly have anybody in it per se, or that doesn't have big stars, but maybe, you know, some nice mid-level talented actors who you kind of might know. There's plenty of room for that. You have to remember that if the studios didn't do this with these independent divisions, those films wouldn't be getting made because there isn't enough free-floating capital out there to do it. And the studios used to make
I disagree with that. I think
with
there's
it
tons and tons
and
of
I'll
money
tell you
out
something
there.
else that's going to happen. If a movie's truly done independently and done small, it can attract talent to do things for perhaps less than they would ordinarily work for Warner Brothers or Universal. I mean, it's just they do. They say, what a wonderful script. It's done independently. Nobody's making any money. We'll contribute. As the talent starts to suss out that these companies are owned by Warner Brothers, Universal, Paramount, and suddenly they're making a big film for a little film and they get to use their name in the exact same way, it's going to change, and the costs are going to change. I mean, I know I've just got involved in a small film that is just completed with Sigourney Weaver and Jeff Daniels that was made completely independently of the studios. And I'm not sure that they would have worked for this picture with the same affection and same deal that they would have if
Now,
you
tell
know,
us
down
about
the
the
road.
Black Dahlia. Who's going to
Well,
be
Black
in
Dahlia
that?
is a different situation. That's a big independent movie that we've just, you know, have been in a major struggle to raise the money for and seem to have all of the money. But that's with Mark Wahlberg and Josh Hartnett and Scarlett Johansson and
But that's
Brian
a
De Palma.
quasi-studio picture. That's
it's
not
a quasi-studio without any studio money.
But
it's
why did you
They're
do
all
it that way?
quasi-studio
Yeah,
pictures.
yeah.
Let's hey, let's pull back the curtain. They're all quasi. These companies
agree.
are multinational companies backing these small independent companies. I started Sony Classics. Why? I had all this infrastructure that I could use to help that company at different stages. I think it's a good bet. I think it is a good bet. The question is, but with everybody in the corral, and then everybody trying to imitate what the major does, adding the stars above the line, now trying to bring them out instead of in 40 or 80 theaters, 1,300 screens.
Exactly.
Are we just replicating the studio model
Pissed
again?
off
I
that
agree.
you
They're
stole
gonna-
his idea.
They're going to
He was
end up,
there at the company.
they're going to end up trying to turn the independent film business into a business model that they understand,
That's exactly
which
right.
is the studio films.
That's exactly
and they
right.
understand how to develop those films. They understand how to cast them. They understand how to make them. And my guess is that 90% of them are going to be absolute garbage. They're not going to be great
isn't
independent
Miramax,
films.
to a degree, the symbol of this thing because they started with small pictures, and over the years, most of their pictures have gotten bigger and bigger until now it's certainly indistinguishable from a major studio.
Absolutely. I
Except
think
it
it's hugely
makes it-
distinguishable from a major. On the top end, their top 5 movies are indistinguishable, but then everything else they're doing, I mean, look, they made Dirty Pretty Things, and nobody else was making that movie. Right. It's organ grinding, you know, that's rough. They bought a lot of really interesting movies. They still back really interesting
Totally.
bets.
Harvey's fabulous.
I mean, you're correct to say that Gangs of New York could have been made by any major studio, as Aviator could have been as well.
Maybe
but
shouldn't have been made by any
yeah, maybe not. I don't know. There's that too. But I give those guys a lot of credit. They're still, I think, taking interesting bets. Are they spending more money to do it? Yeah.
Raising money, they're going to ask you, who's the North American distributor? International output
You see,
deals,
that's
they're going to
where-
say,
that's where
who's
we-
the domestic distributor?
That's where we come in and say, you know what, you don't need to have one right now. We'll figure out a way to get the movie financed. We'll help you as a client get your films made. And we won't go to the studio until after the movie's done. And then when they see it, they'll either like it or they don't like it. And if they like
That's
it,
exactly right, and it's what I sort of was involved in this recent movie with Sigourney Weaver. But it is hard. It's very, very hard to do it this way. And you're absolutely right. The trick question is, but do you have a domestic distributor? And if you don't think that each one of these major studios don't realize that puts them in the driver's seat and does it really well with independent films, think about it. Now I'm going to say, well, why should we release your independent film? We have our own independent division, so we're going to release our independent movies. I don't think there's going to be a great. There's going to be a natural reluctance to say, wait a second,
But why did
we
you
got
set
ours.
out to make, which you admitted is admittedly a major studio film, The Black Dahlia?
I couldn't get anybody
without a
interested.
distributor. So in other words, the studio said
But-
we weren't interested.
No, this was such a studio movie that it sort of preempted them. It's like, here were the facts.
Right.
This is the script, this is the director, these are the stars. We are not, this has got nothing to do with putting it through your system.
And
We'd,
by the
we'd
way,
like
that-
to rent your distribution system.
that-
Who wants, they don't want to be in the business. Even though they can make a lot of money.
They don't wanna rent it.
Yeah, they don't want to
They
rent
don't
it.
want to muck up their food chain with
And
something they're
that's
renting.
right.
there's also so many different ways to finance movies now that without this, using
That's
the studio
absolutely true.
system, you can go to, and they're taking an American movie and they're going to Europe and they're using all kinds of British tax incentives and foreign tax money to co-finance a movie that really is American film using foreign money. And that's the way that we figured out how to get around not working with the studios, is to go use all this free money in Europe and put that together
You
with
know, I agree with you, but this year we finished our 20th film, which we independently financed. And in fact, one we did with you, right? We raised all the money.
We is not him and me.
We raised all the money, and virtually all the way through all the studios we were involved with, Universal, Sony, Paramount, Warner's. You really have a real uphill battle if the film is expensive, really expensive, without a North American distributor starting out.
There's no question about it, but there are very clever people like myself who are out there doing it. So it can be done, and yeah, exactly. And but there are other people too who are really smart at this, and movies can get made without distribution. In fact, many of them are being made without distribution.
How expensive? What's the top on that end? Really, there is a top.
I don't think there is a top. I mean, I think what Art's doing is probably the top, the $45 to $50 million film. You know, the Bruce Willis just made a film called Hostage, which was made for $50 million.
But let me tell you how we're doing it. This, I don't know if this would be of interest. Here's a movie, The Black Dahlia, is a movie about a major crime in the 40s, you know, that everybody's probably heard of. We're shooting it all in Rome on sound stages, and we're shooting like 2 or 3 weeks in Los Angeles. It's being, Dante Ferretti is Italian. He's doing, Sandy Powell's English is doing the wardrobe. Vilmos Zsigmond is European. Brian De Palma will soon become an Italian citizen. But before we're done, I mean, what Cassian's talking about is suddenly we were able to make it sort of an international situation where you can raise money in ways that you can't do. It's absolutely true.
I was working on a movie, the Bobby Darin story, which Kevin Spacey wrote, directed, and is starring as Bobby Darin in that movie. And it's a $23 million film. The most I could sell it for in America was $3 million, and we raised $20 million in Europe, shooting it as a German-British co-production. And so you have an American in Berlin at the Babelsberg studio, and they invested in the film too. And so we raised $20 million of what is called soft money to make the movie. And that's how you have to do it now.
Do you find it all daunting that the Cannes Film Festival, which certainly used to be a showcase for independent films and artistically interesting films, really is now given over to the promotion of Troy, Shrek 2, and other major American films. In other words,
studio circus.
But the majors, that's right, the majors are really, in a way, taking over the festivals.
Good question, and I think the film festival's been reactionary towards that and deliberately brought very few American films into the competition and into the various different competitions there. And so you see all these films that you've never heard of, that you'll probably never see again, that won't get much distribution in the US. And so it's been reactionary to how the studios have taken over the festival. And my guess is eventually the Toronto and Sundance, which are the other two great festivals, will be co-opted in the same way by the studios to release their product and try to find
so
some
you'll start
way.
a new festival, the William Morris Festival.
We're ready.
But here's the conundrum you face. At some point, there's a crowding out effect. It's a capital crowding out effect. There's a distribution crowding out effect. There's an intellectual capital crowding out effect. In other words, how many pictures can be absorbed into the theatrical marketplace and be released? You know, we have 3, 4, 5 films coming out on a weekend. You'd say 3 of them are with majors and 2 or 3 of them are with independent majors, maybe 1 or 2 mini independents. You know, there's just so much publicity to go around. There's just so much space to go around.
When those costs come down, it's going to change because these pictures are so expensive that they're all backed up. Some of them are going down the drain, and they're going down the drain quick. They go down the drain in 72 hours, as you know, or even sometimes less, right?
Well, that's the stunning thing. Is a failing movie used to be 8 weeks in the theaters, and then it was 4. Now it's 2. I mean, it's unbearable.
And the films that you're making, these independent films, many of them need patience by the exhibitor, and patience by the distributor, and patience by the audience.
We'll get it as long as they're good, and if they're not good, we'll really be struggling. The good ones will always come through. You know, when I can tell you, what a lot of people heard about Lost in Translation, they said, "Oh, you got to be kidding! It's our sophomore movie." No way. And of course, it was great, and it found its way through.
But it was wonderfully handled by Focus. I mean, they nurtured it, and they didn't try to score on it right off the bat. I got to say, Focus did a fabulous job, and so they're capable.
Wait a minute.
And I swear to God, oh, they've only said no to me.
Wait, who was above the line in that picture? What name?
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray. You know, that's a different kind of picture than in the past. You have big stars doing these pictures. You know, I still think that's a big change, a sea change from doing it with virtual young new people.
I'll tell you what's different about that,
He's almost forced to do a movie like that because the studios are making such garbage as their $150
Also, Bill was in a
million
position in his
films.
career where he had to. But the fact is that you said something interesting, though, because the thing is, even in that picture was funded and then given to Focus. They did not fund the picture. And when Focus starts to be thought of as a major studio, Bill Murray won't do a movie for $200,000. Suddenly, it's going to get jacked, and the reason he's
sitting there
but for
waiting to
Sophia,
see what his back end's going to look like,
You
because
bet.
it's going to be very interesting to see whether he actually gets paid or not.
What do these people have in common? Adrian Brody, Michael Caine, Jodie Foster, Tobey Maguire, Keanu Reeves, Edward Norton, and Elijah Wood.
They've all made,
Cast all of them.
they've all made independent films.
His company.
I've cast all of them.
You look back a few years ago,
10, 12, 15, 20 years ago, and you see independent films, they didn't have any of those names in it. They really were of a different
You
name.
cast all of them at less than their normal prices.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's 2 for the bank, 1 for the soul. So
But-
the idea is to get to do something interesting, you do it for less.
Because the one thing that was confusing, that was said before, is can you get, the implication was that if you get a major star to make an art film, that if it's made under the aegis of a studio, you have to pay full freight.
It's absolutely not true.
You don't. Okay.
Absolutely not.
So
We
you
wouldn't-
don't have to be an
You-
independent to get it.
It will change.
Change.
It will change. It's in the system. As soon as they see how much money these corporations are going to make, their agents are going to say, "Hold on."
No, but
They're putting it through an independent company, but they stand to make $30 or $40 million. Are you saying you still want to do this for $200,000?
Here's what the agent said to me. I'm in the business. Full out. Hundreds of millions of dollars over the last number of years. Here's what they said to me. Let me have Japan. I want France. That's what they don't want the percent. They want a territory. They want a country, you know?
Well, that's the
I
same
think that
thing
the
that I'm
people
saying.
like
It's a-
myself and the various different agencies have really become so much more sophisticated about how these movies are being financed, because that's what we do. I don't really have any clients. My job is to go out and raise money and put these deals together.
You make a
And we
picture of Mel
really,
Gibson, he wants the world.
he really,
What the hell about a country? He wants the Vatican.
and he now wants
By the way,
heaven
he
as well.
gets
So.
Guys, thank you so much for coming and talking to us. This is very interesting, and good luck to everyone.
Good luck in Cannes.
Thank you.
Good luck to everyone.
Thank you.
Talk about this for an hour.